Today we're having a look at the new Swan grinder from Marzocco. It's been quite a few years in the development and there's a lot of new tech in here that I really want to cover. We're going to cover how it runs, how it grinds, and what you might get out of this grinder when you're going to extract a shot. So hopefully answer all your questions. Let's get into it. When we talk grinders, definitely there's not a huge big change if we go back about 5 or 6 or 10 years on a coffee grinder. But it seems like we seem to introduce newer and greater things every time a brand gets to play with or redevelop the coffee grinder. Definitely weight-based is something that's been happening, but I can tell you grind retention, anti-static, and quality of grind is definitely the big buzzword. I mean, everyone's trying different ways to do it. And no doubt the Swan and the team at Marzocco have redefined how they've achieved this. So let's dive a little bit deeper into, I guess, what this grinder does differently. And I think they've looked at it from a very unique perspective. They've looked at it and said, well, how can we remove heat from a grinder? How can we make it very easy to use in terms of durability? To dose coffee into your portafilter handle, and also how can we deal with the issues of static in a grinder. So let's dive a little bit deeper into how they've achieved this. So firstly, from a cosmetic perspective, it looks different. It's got a really funky hopper, and it definitely has a big stance on a bench, but it has to because it's got to hold the technology and the design of the grinder inside it. Basically, it's still running the platform that you'll see on the Marzocco machines with the 3-button firmware options. But how it actually grinds is significantly different. Most coffee grinders you have an electric motor, they have a shaft, and then they have a burr set, either the conical or a flat burr that's attached to it, and essentially that will start to spin and the outer burr will stay still, and you can adjust that higher or lower to increase or decrease your grind particle size. Well, in the Swan, that's totally different. What's happened is they've taken the motor and popped it right at the back. And then they've got a belt drive system, which actually then runs the top outer burr. So we're not spinning that inner burr at all. So that does two things. What it does is take all the heat from that electric motor totally away from the burr set, because we know that heat really does affect grind quality. And then what they've done is they've allowed, once you're grinding essentially, that grind particles to fall perfectly straight down. There's no motor in the way. So essentially, you've created this beautiful space for the coffee to fall, and we don't have to think about anti-clumping. We don't have to worry about chutes. We don't have to have a way to basically press that coffee all the way through some sort of chute by building up something on the other side of the burrs. So essentially, they've created a zero retention grinder. So that's pretty cool. Now, I mentioned before about the outer burr set moving. So this is actually an 83mm conical burr set. So the cone stays still, and then the outer ring essentially turns. And because it's belt driven, it's far more accurate than a high-speed motor having to work out how many times that motor is going to turn to deliver a certain amount of grind. Now, what they've done is the motor technology has come a long way. Essentially, because of the belt drive, they can just make that motor turn a tiny little bit, which essentially will give a small amount of grind particle size out. And so they can control, just like your pepper shaker and your salt shaker at home, you know, 1 or 2 little turns of those. They're actually usually a ceramic conical burr salt and pepper shaker. You know, you'll get a little bit of grind. And that's what they've done with this grinder. So it's very accurate, very easy to use. The motor doesn't have to spin huge revolutions. It doesn't have to use lots of power to generate the speed to get the burrs to actually grind the actual coffee and then shoot it down through the grind chute into your portafilter handle. So there's a lot of things that have been solved in there. If you look further into grinders, you understand what I'm talking about, but it's pretty cool technology. Now, the other side to it is because that grind is falling straight down into your portafilter with no chute, essentially we have to work with how we're going to deal with some static. Now, a lot of brands use some sort of rubber ring or some sort of device to capture static. And now there are a few different grinders on the market using ionizing technology, whether they're shooting a beam or something like that. And I think it's great. I think it's definitely the way that the technology for this kind of equipment's going to go. But what Marzocco's done is they have an ionizing ring. So as that coffee falls down, it does positive and negative ions into that coffee bed in the air, takes away all the static, and then there is just a little chute here which allows that coffee to fall straight down into your portafilter. Now you're thinking, gee, this looks a bit tech, you know, we've removed the motor, we're doing a different way to grind, and we've got ionizing rings. Does it actually work? Well, it does, because I want to show you that right now. Look how fluffy this grind is when it comes out. We always talk about clumping and having to get rid of clumps out of coffee by using WDTs and all these other devices that you have on the market. But let's just show you how well this coffee comes out. Look at that. It's so light, it's so fluffy, and that is a 22 gram dose. I can't even fit a 22.5 gram like we would with every other grinder. Because the grind particles are so separated and they're so fluffy, it takes up so much more volume. Now, whether that's a good or a bad thing, that's something for you to decide personally, but it's definitely taking away any sort of clumping, any ability to channel because of those boulders or the rocks or anything that's clumping together in that grind particle size. So it's pretty cool that it is very much anti-clumping, and that is something this grinder is doing fantastically. So if you're following our channel, you'll know that we use these standard baskets from Marzocco and we do a 22.5 gram dose. So let's check out what that looks like. We'll tear off our handle, and by placing this handle on, it bridges a gap in a switch, which I'm gonna dive a bit deeper into, but essentially it's gonna dose us some coffee. So let's check out the dose. You can see how fluffy that is. Right now it's getting pretty full. Wow, okay, that's a big dose in a basket, right? Now, if I just take that out, a little bit's just gonna come from the top, and I'm just gonna not let it all fall off so I can get a good measurement here, but let's have a look at how much grind that actually is. It's 22 grams. Now, I've never seen a dose that has been that high and that fluffy for 22 grams. Not even 22.5, I couldn't even fit it in the basket. It was making too much of a mess. So what's happening here is the grind particles are not clumping together at all. There is so much space between each one. They're so light, so fluffy, that essentially there's gonna be no channeling or clumping of those grind particle size. You've eliminated all of your WDTs or any of those other tools that you need to do. When you start to talk about distribution, a word I always struggle with, to actually fix any of those issues, well, we don't have them here. So now we're just gonna be looking at evening that bed out and getting a nice even tamp onto this coffee. Is it a fluke? Let's go again. Let's get rid of this handle. Just double tear it off again. Just to be fair, we'll get rid of all of that grind particle size there as well. Because again, this is a normal standard dose that we're trying to achieve, but it's just overfilling the basket. So we'll go again. All right, didn't spill as much this time. Just try and keep it all in. Pop it on here. 22 grams. So how does the Swan grinder become so accurate? Well, it all comes down to two parts, the motor and an encoder. The motor in the Swan is very consistent in its speed. A lot of grinders have a variable speed based on the resistance from the beans actually falling onto the burrs, which causes a whole range of issues in grinding. But in the Swan, that motor is super consistent. And so what's happening as it's grinding with the outer burr set, there is actually an encoder which is measuring exactly where that burr set is, where it's starting and stopping on every revolution. So it knows exactly how much coffee is going to fall into your portafilter handle based on the revolutions that outer burr set has actually traveled. So if you're thinking, have I overdosed this? You try and put this much coffee and work out how many grams that is in your normal 22.5 gram. I reckon this would be about 25 to maybe even 28 grams of coffee in any other grinder. So it is way overdosed. You can collapse this a lot and try and deal with it and try and fit it in, but it's definitely very fluffy. Now, if you're a person that has a Linear Mini or a Micra from many years from Marzocco, actually even the GS3, Marzocco engineers haven't reinvented how they're going to activate the portafilter to get the grind. They've simply used something they already had, which is so simple and easy tech. The way that they've always looked at the water levels in your tanks is a simple set of springs, and at the water level, essentially, it would, as the water level hits, it'll cross the electronic current and make it pump water or tell you that you've got water in your tank. And this is exactly what they've done here. There's no switch, there's nothing really fancy, but as you remove the whole cradle here, it doesn't have to be weighted. It is literally two sets of springs, and you can see that the whole device is separated all the way through here. It sits onto two little screws in the back there. It's got an electronic current that runs through it, and the minute that you put your handle in, it bridges these two pieces together and closes the circuit, and that's how you grind. So a lot of machines have a button that you've got to press, and we know that the button can wear out, or it may have a proximity sensor and things like that, but they are all very more expensive items, to be honest, than a simple bridging of a switch. So it's pretty smart. All day, every day, you're never going to break that. So I think that's a win for durability. So if you're familiar with Marzocco, you'll see this 3-button technology. It's the platform that runs across a lot of their coffee machines, and it makes it easy for anyone to jump on and use a PB like I have here and navigate through the new Swan grinder. It's pretty simple. You basically press and hold the button and you'll be able to change dose 1. The middle button is an increase, the bottom one is a decrease, and if you press both of them at the same time, you'll exit the menu. Now, to get into the extra deeper side of the menu, you do press and hold both buttons. Button 3 is going to escape. The middle one is going to be to progress through the menu. You'll see the firmware. You can pick for portafilter. It'll flash, and you can change that to just activating the buttons if you didn't want to use that portafilter that I just showed before to activate the grinds. I like it to be the portafilter. The next other thing that you would look at is the speed. Dose 1 settings. There you go. The speed of the actual motor. So you can have a low, you can have a medium or a high. So the low is 100 RPM, the medium is 150 RPM, and the high is 200 RPM. Now, I've set this grinder up for a bit of a demo where we've got one set at 200 RPM and one set for 100 RPM. And I look forward to showing you that in just a second. So let's get out of this menu. So they're the tech side of the grinder. You can basically have anti-static, conical burr, and you can have variable speeds to your grinder, which is kind of cool. Let's take a look at the actual whole grinder. It definitely looks different. There's a couple of key things that are pretty cool. There is a new hopper lid. Now, it definitely has a unique shape, but it's kind of cool. You can open it up, pop your beans in, and close it up. You don't have to think about where you're gonna put your lid or lose it or basically break it, or not have those beans covered when you're filled up your grind. So that's really easy. You've got grind adjustment knobs on the right hand and the left hand side. So depending on where you have this set up, you might have another grinder really close, but you'll always be able to get in there easy and to make that same adjustment on the left or the right hand side. It is a stepless control, so it's quite a long way to actually make those burrs have a variation. It does click as you go, but it is such a micro adjustment that you're not going to be able to see those differences in the actual grind particle sizes. To remove the hopper, it's a little bit different. It's definitely locked in place. You've got this front little slide, which you've got to roll and get the little icon to match up. And once you've got that all the way through, there we go. It's 100% closed. You're not going to lose any beans, and you'll be able to remove that out. In terms of safety, once the hopper's removed, you can clearly see that the lights are flashing, and on the screen it says check hopper collar, check the side screws, hopper slide not securely mounted. So if you didn't know that that was not in right, well, there's enough warnings there for sure. Obviously that's to stop you putting your fingers in and munching up through the burr sets there. So you can pop it back on and just slide that around. And the moment that all gets locked in, it recognizes the hopper's in place and you're ready to go again. Clearly on the front, you can see a grind particle size measurement here, and they're saying 35 is large on the scale and 0 is obviously heading towards finer. So it's pretty easy to work out which way to go for finer or coarse. And then underneath here, you definitely have a unique thing that no other grinder has. So it's a special chute. You don't want to be jamming things up there. That's where the ionizing ring is. And there's also some little brushes that flip around to make sure that any grind that's in there does come out. So I wouldn't be jamming anything up there. Maybe we need to do a video specifically on how to clean that. If you're not sure, grab a tech and they'll be able to help you. Now for a full video, we do have a how to use this menu, how to actually program it properly for you. So a deep dive into that one if you need to. Check out that video. It's live now as well. So I've just talked about removing a motor, getting away the heat, having an ionizing ring, different 83mm grinder burr set in conical, and then we've obviously got the speed or the variables that you can have in terms of how quick those burrs are going to move. Well, what does that actually mean when you get coffee into your shot? Well, let's give it a go. I've got it set up now with a 19 gram dose, I've got button 1 set on the low speed, so that's 100 RPM, and button 2 is set on the high, which is 200 RPM. So I'm just going to run 2 shots here. I'll just show you the same gram weights, and we'll just show you what the extractions look like. So tear that off. Okay, I've got the portafilter set up as auto. You can see it's low. Yep, cool. Just going to give it 1 tap just to collapse that so I didn't lose any grinds. We're at 19 grams. Just a little bit of a NCD. We're set at 14 on our Chino tamper. And we're going to do our double extraction. You can see it's starting to go quite fast and run pretty quick, and that was a 21-second shot. I'll just put that aside for now. No channeling. A little bit of water on the top there, which is fine, and expanded. It's quite soft on the top, but the middle got a bit firm there. So I've just dialed in button 2 with the high speed, which is 200 RPM. So we're at 12.2 there. So we'll grind this off now. And you can see up here on the high, oh, went so quick you missed it. That was on high speed, and 12.2. We'll just check that gram weights. Here we go, so we're 19 as well. Okay, so we had 21 seconds last shot. Let's just see what happens in terms of time when we extract with a faster 200 RPM speed on that grinder. There you go, 18 seconds. If I was to use one of the other grinders that we've been normally using on these machines, we actually have for our recipes about 30 seconds. So what's happening is the grind particles are so well laid out that the water is just gushing through so much quicker. So you're gonna have to go a lot finer, and you're gonna have to look to extract a lot more out of your coffee, which is a good thing. We wanna get more out of it. So does it relate to what we've been doing on other grinders? I'd say no, definitely not. You need to dial in the Swan to suit exactly the flavor profile that you're gonna have. It's definitely allowing the coffee to flow a lot quicker. It's definitely giving a lot more highlighted flavors. Higher acidity, a bit more, probably a little bit less body in that, to be honest. But there's a whole range of extra flavors that are coming through. So it's a lot cleaner and definitely a lot more clarity coming from that big 83mm burr set. There you go. I hope you've got an insight as to what the new Swan grinder from Marzocco can give you. It definitely gives you a lot of flexibility in variable speeds, a new way to dose, low heat onto your burrs, and huge anti-static. Now, I think there's a lot of time that we need to still keep playing with this as a grinder. What is the best outcome for us? How do we want our beans to taste? Now that's going to be something that we're going to be playing with over the next couple of weeks. You'll see the grinder in probably some more videos while we have it on the bar, and we're going to couple it up with a few other things from Marzocco we're excited to be playing with. So keep an eye out for that. But really, what is the key part here? Are we looking for flavor? Are we looking for anti-static, anti-clumping, or less heat? And how does that really affect your particular beans? The good thing is the Swan actually has the ability for you to play with those different levers and try and search to do more than just a normal grinder would offer you. So I think that's a huge win for the team and the engineers from Marzocco. So thanks for bringing us something a bit crazy and something a bit different that we can play with, tools to do these things. So whether this suits you in terms of flavor or not, I'd love to hear. Leave a comment down below. Have you had a chance to play with one? Did you find that your coffee was better by playing with higher speeds, lower speeds? Is the anti-clumping something that you just are crazy with? What have you found with your dose? Because you can see that 22 grams fills the basket massively. Anyway, there's a lot of more conversations to have around this grinder. I'd love to answer them. Pop them down in the comments below and I'll look forward to trying to answer those for you and starting some discussions around the new Swan grinder. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. If you haven't yet, please do like and subscribe. We have hit a really good mark recently, over 200,000, and we want to keep going more with that one. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.